Dan Cerutti joins us now, a Democratic candidate for mayor in the city of Albany, and the primary on Tuesday. Dan, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me in.
So obviously the last couple of weeks in the city of Albany have been busy. So you have this sort of a confluence of events here where you had the mayor and the police chief come out and say crime's down. You got members of the community say, well, we don't feel that way. We're not experiencing that. And then you had real crimes occur. You had a horrible homicide. You had the reported break-in and rape, and then just yesterday, the wielding knife individual with the U.S. attorney. So we have all that in context, and I just want to ask, and I know that you've talked over the course of this campaign about public safety, of course, broadly, but I also want to speak to that perception, because that is also, you look at the stats, crime from year to year has been down. The perception, though, doesn't reflect that. How, as mayor, would you change the perception of crime in Albany?
Well, ultimately, we got to change the reality. The year-to-year stats may be true at a point in time, and then, as you said, there were 3, in fact 4. There was a guy busted downtown with 97 or something grams of cocaine and a gun, all within a couple weeks of the narrative that said, you know, things are getting better. They're not getting better, and even if they are getting a little better, it's nowhere near where it ought to be. So the perception will follow that, and what we need to do is start making concrete, taking concrete steps forward. We got to put the 30B cops back in the neighborhoods. It's an imperative. The communities need to engage more, and they will. Right, they generate more trust. So that's the neighborhood part of it. We got to rebuild our police force. We've talked about that before. So this is all real stuff. But the police have also got to work closer with the sheriff, closer with other municipalities. There's a lot of steps we can do, and we can't wait. These are things we got to do, as soon as possible. I will support all of these activities. I will put an emphasis on all of these activities, and I hope we can do that.
There's some that argue that beat cops aren't the answer. Instead, invest in the investigation aspect of that more so. Put more weight into that. What do you think of that?
I think no one thing is the answer, but both of those things really matter. And in addition to that, community engagement. We can put non-officers into the neighborhoods. We can draw from community leaders to participate in this communication, trust building, generate awareness, education. This is all part of a larger community policing effort.
Do you think the perception, you talk about the stats of being down, but if you look at the stats, you go back to 2019 and they're still way above what 2019 was in terms of violent crime in the city of Albany. Is there a tipping point with the stats too that you think can actually then become the reality of perception, in terms of a decrease? Because right now it feels like the percentage of the decrease isn't enough to make people feel better.
I think that's astute. I don't know there's a tipping point, but what I know is that it's at a level that's entirely unacceptable. And so going down 5% or 10% year to year is not enough to change anything. We have to have a much longer term view of this. So I don't know what the number is, but it's a 50% kind of objective. We have to dramatically decrease violent crime in Albany. And we also have to get back to root causes. I'm worried right now because summer's starting. The kids don't have as much to do. We eliminate our youth engagement programs. We don't have anywhere near the kids we used to have working for the city. When I was a kid, we worked for the city. Thousands of us worked for the city. We got this job. We were employed for 6 or 8 hours a day. We did something that was constructive. We learned a little discipline, and we made a little money. And we don't have those kinds of programs in the city. We have a program. We probably have 100 people in it.
The summer youth employment program.
Yeah, it doesn't have 7,000 in it. We had 7,000 in the after-school engagement 12 years ago. So that root cause stuff we got to get after that in a big way. Our kids need things to do to keep them occupied.
Specifically on Wednesday, you had the U.S. attorney threatened by an undocumented individual with a knife. And of course that got major headlines, but also had Republicans say the city's sanctuary policies are to blame for that. Do you agree with that?
I do not. This right and left extreme criticism and yelling is noise. These people are in our city. There's too many of them in our city, given our ability to deal with the people on the street. We need more capacity, as I've said, to help with substance abuse issues, mental health issues, and poverty. Our police force is down. So the combination of not having enough resources on the streets and in the neighborhoods, combined with an influx of people, creates a difficult situation. I don't think that any given sanctuary city policy or any border policy is to be blamed for one guy. He's been in the country for 5 years, is my understanding. He's obviously got some problems. We didn't have the presence in that area of the city at that time of the day. These isolated cases cannot be construed to be the problem.
I believe the report was that he was spending time under bridges and things of that nature. Is that what you get to in terms of resources and being able to help with that?
So we've got hundreds, 400 by one count, of those people who need our help, who don't have stable housing. And some subset of them have, as I said, substance abuse issues, and we're not getting them enough treatment. Several have mental health issues. We're not getting enough treatment. And by and large, they don't have places to go. They don't have beds. And we have got to expand the resources to help these people. Whether we could have saved that guy or not, I don't know. But we can't just let this continue, because it's not going to get better by itself.
Obviously, you've been campaigning now for more than a couple years at that, and now as we run up to Tuesday, is there anything you'd like to address at this point as we near the final day of this on Tuesday?
Well, I've been at this for 2.5 years. The first year was research. It was to try to find out what we could do for the city of Albany. And when I decided to run, I've spent 1.5 years. I've talked to thousands of people, and people want change. We know what the issues are. We know we have to deal with public safety. We know we have to attract investment into our city. We've got housing issues across the board. We have challenges with our youth, youth engagement, which I just talked about. The people of the city of Albany want change. I think they know that. There's mudslinging and name calling. They're stealing our signs. That's all silliness. I think the voters in Albany are smart. They want change. They deserve change. I will bring change. So I'm optimistic right now. 5 more days. We've got to encourage everybody to get out and vote. We've got today and Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and then primary day. So I encourage everybody in the city to exercise their right to vote. It's important.
Do you want to address, you mentioned mudslinging. I mean, we have a minute now. I mean, just the registering as a Republican years ago and now being a Democrat in Albany, what that all means?
I don't think it means anything, but apparently the administration and my primary opponent, that's what they think is meaningful. I was a registered Republican for about 8 years and didn't vote 35 years ago. I believe the mayor was also a registered Republican. I know the treasurer was a registered Republican. People change over time. Who cares? I'm not a Republican. I'm a moderate Democrat. I am battling the far left of the Democratic Party and the Working Families Party and the Working Families Party. And so we have a difference in ideology. But I'm a tried and true Democratic value working class guy. And I care about the city, and that's all I care about.
What do you think it says? I mean, how do you feel about Republicans supporting you in this? If with their money, their campaign?
There are a couple people who have donated money to the PAC, which I don't control, and they're registered Republicans. I could care less. I don't think that's why they donated money. They donated money, the ones I know, because they care about the city, they care about poverty, they're philanthropists at some level. One of them grew up in the city of Albany in a large family. I know him. I don't think it has anything to do with political parties. I don't think in the city, I mean, we are a democratic city, and our values are democratic union values, and I believe that will win out in the end.
The final question here, as we get you ready for the final day of election, who are you inspired by?
I'm inspired by a lot of people because I've had a lot of experience. If I had to name 2 people who I admire for their public service and their bravery, it's John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. They're people that I think changed the world, and they changed it themselves with the people that they followed, and they were brave. And Kennedy and his brother with respect to civil rights and Cuba and other crises, and Martin Luther King just forever. And so I draw inspiration for public service from people like that.
Dan Cerutti, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.